The story of Daedalus and Icarus, the men who flew like birds. On the island of Crete, during the reign of King Minos, there lived a most skillful artisan named Daedalus. Daedalus was the greatest inventor and craftsman of his time, and his fame spread to the far corners of the world. It was Daedalus who built the famous labyrinth in which King Minos kept the terrible beast, the Minotaur. This labyrinth was a building with hundreds of winding halls and passages, so complicated that no one who went into it could ever find his way out again. But although Daedalus performed great services for King Minos, the king feared him. Minos was afraid that Daedalus, with his great wisdom and skill, might someday gain the throne of Crete. So King Minos caused Daedalus and his young son, Icarus, to be imprisoned in a dark stone tower. But no locks could hold Daedalus, for he could open them all, and one dark night Daedalus and young Icarus escaped from the tower. After they had fled, Daedalus and Icarus did not find it so easy to escape from Crete. You see, Crete is an island, and King Minos had his soldiers search every ship that left its shores. Daedalus and Icarus lay in hiding in a cave along the seashore. One bright day, Daedalus was idly watching the seagulls soaring and swooping over the water in their search for food. Suddenly, an idea struck him. "King Minos may control the land and sea," he cried, "but he does not control the air. This is how Icarus and I shall escape." Then Daedalus set to work to study the birds and learn the secret of their flight. For endless hours he watched the birds flying. He caught a bird and studied the clever structure of its wings. Then he put to use his knowledge and skill to copy the wings of a bird. The boy Icarus spent his days trapping the seagulls and plucking their feathers. Daedalus took the feathers which his son had obtained and sewed them together with marvelous skill. Soon wings began to take shape, so wonderfully made that, except for their great size, they looked exactly like the real wings of a bird. And then Daedalus took these wings and with melted wax attached them to a wooden framework. When he had made a pair of wings for himself and a pair of wings for his son, Daedalus fastened them in place. A wing was strapped to each arm. Then Daedalus proceeded to teach his son to fly, just as a mother bird teaches her young. How happy and excited young Icarus was when he found that he could fly through the air, that he could circle and float on the wind. He was impatient to be off. Finally the time came when Daedalus felt that they were ready to make their escape from Crete. He turned to his young son and said, "Icarus, listen carefully to my words. Follow close behind me in your flight. Do not fly too low, or the dampness of the sea will cling to your wings and make them too heavy for you to lift. Do not fly too high, or the sun will melt the wax of your wings." Then Daedalus kissed his son fondly and began to rise into the air. Icarus followed his father. As the two of them flew across the sky, people looked up in amazement. The plowmen in the fields gazed upward. The shepherds marveled. They thought they were watching the flight of gods. At first, Icarus stayed close behind his father, but then, exulting in his newfound power, he flew off on little side trips. Soon, he had forgotten everything his father had told him and flew high into the heavens. The blazing sun did its work, and the wax of his wings melted. Icarus fluttered his arms, but there were not enough feathers left to beat the air. He called to his father, but in vain. Down he fell into the sea. Daedalus sped to the aid of his son, but when he saw the feathers floating on the ocean, he knew to his grief that Icarus had been drowned. So ended man's first attempt to fly, for Daedalus, heartbroken at the loss of his son, flew on to Sicily, took off his wings, and never flew again.